I never knew my Uncle Alfred. I know from family history that he was the youngest of 10 children, my father, John, being the oldest. Um, and being the youngest, with, I think, quite a number of years between my father and he. My father ended up being a father figure for my Uncle Alfred. And my first recollection of him was the fact that my father kept a portrait picture of him in our living room on Lake Street. So when my brother and sister and I were growing up, we constantly had, we were operating under the gaze of our Uncle Alfred. When I think about my own family, I have four sons. It reminds me of my Uncle Alfred. They're actually all older than he was when he died, but in recent years, thinking about my oldest son, Brendan, who is in the Army, stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, which we found out in doing some of the family research, that's where my Uncle Alfred went through basic training. But my son had recently been deployed to Afghanistan and has returned safely. And I think maybe that got me thinking about the opportunity to honor my uncle's memory, even though it's been over 70 years since he died. But more in thinking about all my sons, just the opportunity that they have to live in this country and enjoying the freedoms that are protected by our servicemen and women.
Our family has, even over the generations, even our generation, obviously our parents' generation, and our children are all have kind of felt an obligation to serve our country. I myself, my son, he was in the National Guard, the Army National Guard. He actually joined right while he was still in high school. And we had to sign for him which I had some misgivings based on my Uncle Alfred's experience, because he went in during peacetime, or technically it was peacetime, and he was killed over there. And so when my son went in, it was a little bit of angst over letting him go. But I did, and then when he was in basic training, September 11th happened. And it started all my fears, kind of put them into overdrive. And I honestly thought a little bit about my grandmother and how she must have felt, if any, she saw 4 of her sons serve and 1 not come back, my Uncle Alfred.
When I think of my Uncle Alfred, as has been said, I never had a chance to meet him. But it's just the picture that was on our living room wall. And when I decided to enlist, I was still in high school when I enlisted. That's when I first asked my father about it, because he never really talked about him. And going into the service shortly after high school, he went in 3 days after he graduated. I went in 2 weeks after. Our family is a family of service, having served our country. And I still feel strongly towards the military. When I think of the picture on the wall, it makes me feel proud of my service. And I feel that my dad was proud of me for going into the service, somewhat, following his footsteps. But I just felt a tighter bond with my Uncle Alfred. Like I said, even though I didn't know him, we had something in common, and in duty to our country.
If I think about my Uncle Alfred's legacy, again, having led such a short life, I think it's all about Somerville. He was born and raised in Somerville, graduated from Somerville High in 1946. So although I don't have a lot of details or have a lot of firsthand knowledge of what he was like, I just think he was a typical Somerville guy from a blue-collar family, and enjoyed life, but obviously felt a responsibility to serve his country, and ultimately lost his life in doing so. I think if he had lived, he would have, like his brothers who were older than him, and 3 of whom served in World War II, he would have gone on to lead a full life and been a family man like they were.